Haskell thump him now.
You're listening to 410 Sports Talk with James Haskell and Glenn Martin. This is Drunkle Bob saying tune in and learn.
Hey, guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I am James Haskell here with my co-host, Glenn Martin. Really excited to talk about Mr. Ronnie Stanley today. That's right, the all-pro left tackle for your Baltimore Ravens. While I'm excited to talk about Ronnie, I'm not excited about the potential of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to get right into it. Ronnie is coming up on the 5th year of his contract. He was a first-round pick, so of course he gets that 5th-year team option. Naturally, we took that option, before the beginning of last year. So we knew we were going to pay him this 5th year. So the last year of his deal, and we want to know what's going to happen, what we want to happen, and we're going to talk about it. So, Glenn, why don't you break down the scenarios that you could see conceivably happening? Not necessarily the likelihood of one another, but that way we get them all on the table. What are the scenarios that could happen with Ronnie?
Yeah, so he's coming off of the all-pro year. So he was the best left tackle, voted as the best left tackle in football last season. And he is, of course, entering his 5th year, so he's going to be paid just under $13 million this year. It's $12.8 million this year. And we know that in this past offseason, a new precedent or a new top has been set for the left tackle market, and that was set by Laramie Tunsil re-signing with the Houston Texans. And he gets around a little over $23 million this season. And I think that's annually about $23 million is how it breaks out for the next 3 years. So the question then becomes, do we sign Ronnie Stanley and to a long-term extension, which, of course, if you're Ronnie Stanley's agent, that's the floor. You're starting at $23 million a year, because if you're voted as the best left tackle in the AFC, then you want to be the highest paid tackle in the AFC. So he's going to have to trump the Laramie Tunsil contract, which is $23 million. So that's a lot of money. And then especially if you're going to be doing that over a 5-year contract, that's eating up a large number of that cap. When you consider what the Ravens have in their future with Lamar Jackson coming up, Mark Andrews, Humphrey, there's a lot of guys that look to be in line to be paid. You're going to have to start making some choices. So they could sign him to a long-term contract extension, make him the highest paid left tackle in the league, which is better be what he's asking for. I'm sure that's what his agent's asking for. So we could do that. We could tag him, which would pay him an average of the top 5 at that position, which would be a savings for 1 year, but it's only a 1-year deal. So there's nothing guaranteed going forward. Now you could tag him for a few years in a row, but typically, that rubs the player the wrong way, because the player wants long-term security. They want that pay to be, they want to make sure that they're compensated for, how well he's played. And you want to make sure that they're guaranteed in the case of a horrible injury that they don't have to worry going forward. So they could tag him, but that could cause a holdout. We've seen that plenty of times over the years where players get tagged and they're not happy. They don't want to come back, so they miss most of the offseason program. They may sit out preseason, which could affect him in the regular season. So they could do that, or they could let him walk, and they could say, maybe we can find a cheaper option. Maybe we feel that Lamar Jackson's ability to move the pocket as well as escape early pressure, that maybe we don't need to invest quite so much capital into the left tackle position, and maybe we could spread that wealth around the other team in other areas that we feel are not as easily covered up by the talents of Lamar Jackson. So to me, those are your options. You pay him long-term, you Band-Aid it with some tags, some franchise tags, or you let him explore the market and you look at maybe moving Orlando Brown to left tackle. Maybe you look at Tyree Phillips and put him at left tackle, or put him at right when you do move Orlando to left, or you look elsewhere. So those are your options. So, Jimmy, let me ask you, let me present this to you. What do you want the Ravens to do, and what do you ultimately think they will do?
This is what I want them to do. I agree with you that, before I give my answer, I agree with you that there is validity to the idea that, Lamar is so special that, how much of Stanley's record-breaking stats were based on the fact that, Lamar is he's got to be the toughest quarterback to sack aside from guys that don't get sacked just because they let go of the ball really quickly. But as far as a guy that's in the backfield, with the football, when you're in the backfield as a defender, he's
got to be ever.
Right, absolutely. And so with that being said, you don't know how much of that has affected. It's hard to quantify how much of that has positively affected Stanley's stats. So, but at the same time, he's durable. He's a leader. He's dedicated. He's obviously talented. There's more than just pass protection. There's run protection as well. So to answer your question, what I want to happen, and the Ravens have been doing this a lot lately, is I want his contract to, as much as possible, line up with Lamar's in a way that, for example, if we front load this thing, right? Lamar's got what? He's going into his third year. So he's got this year, and then he's got 2 more years because he's got the 5th-year deal. He's our 5th-year team option. Obviously, we're going to pick that up. So if we front load it, give him a lot of guarantees because he's durable. I don't see Stanley just all of a sudden turn into Eugene Monroe. He's got the durability. I would like to see it front loaded instead of back loaded, which is the history of the Ravens. But things have been looking different with Eric in there, and strategically placed at a point where when Lamar is there, we still have as much flexibility as possible. So I don't mind making him the highest paid, but if I'm him, I don't necessarily, obviously I want to be the highest paid, but to me, at the end of the day, I want the highest guarantees, right? I want the highest guaranteed dollars for me being Ronnie Stanley. End of story, end of discussion. So that's what I want to see happen. The other thing that could happen, or the other thing to keep in mind, is that if he does walk, Eric loves those comp picks, right? It's not like he's, if at the end of that 5th year, if we let him walk, we're not losing him for nothing. We're going to get a comp pick. I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but it is something to consider when you're thinking about what the Ravens are going to do. So that's what I want them to do. Glenn, what do you want them to do?
Yeah, this is a tough one because they got guys that need to be paid. If you want Matt Judon to be paid beyond this season, it's going to take a long-term contract. If you want Marlon, if you want Mark Andrews, and Lamar is going to be insane. Hollywood Brown. We got a little bit of time on Hollywood to not have to worry about him. But, yeah, I think it's a tough one with him because you love all the stuff. You mentioned some of the stuff that he brings off the field, which is, a great guy in the community, a great guy in your locker room, a guy that doesn't miss the workout, the off-season workout programs. He's covered in all those badges when you see them in training camp. He's a good run blocker. He's a good pass blocker. He's not just a one-trick pony. But there's that question of how much does Lamar keep the defenders on their – you can't just pin your ears back and go after Lamar. You have to rush with that gap integrity. You have to rush knowing that at any moment he could dart past you. So you can't just turn up field and go because you could run yourself clear out of the play. So it makes you wonder, does Ronnie Stanley hold the same value with Lamar behind him as he does with a guy like Joe Flacco behind him? Because I don't think he does. I think he's far more valuable protecting the blind side of a statuesque pocket quarterback than he is protecting that of Lamar Jackson. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have incredible value. So for me, this is a really tough call. I think what I would do is I would try and do everything I can to pay Ronnie Stanley because you typically you're going to pay at least one guy on your offensive line. Well, they were paying that one guy was Marshall Yanda. So now he's off the books. So typically the Ravens are going to pay one of their guys. So if they do pick Stanley as their guy, what does that mean for Orlando? I guess we'll wait and see. We got some time on him. But so I would say let's pay Ronnie Stanley. You mentioned the front load, and I think a lot of people have been saying that front load their contracts. They got an awful lot of guys that are on that front load now. When you look at the recent acquisitions, they've gotten some older guys, some guys that aren't going to be around forever. And the Ravens are always tight up against the cap. It's not like they ever have. This year they've had the more cap space than in years past, and they've already pretty much used that up. So, I would say I hope that they do pay him. I don't want to see Ronnie go. He's durable. He's good at both run and pass. He's great in the locker room, great in the community. He checks pretty much every box that you would want. So I hope they pay him, but I can understand the argument of Lamar kind of covers up some of maybe his deficiency. Maybe we can get a lesser talent there, a guy that's not going to be definitely not going to be as good, but we can get him for a tenth of the price, and maybe that's okay enough.
Right. Now, so we've talked about what we want to happen. Let's transition because I think it's two different things here. What do we think will happen? I think that those are two different scenarios where obviously what we want to happen is not always going to be the case. So I guess if I had to put my money on it here, I think that he will be the guy based on that logic, just following the same logic that you said. I mean, he has to be the guy on the offensive line that gets paid. He was our first round pick. He was number 6. He was top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Obviously, they believed in him from day one. He, like you said, he's got all the intangibles. He's a leader. He's durable. I think that he would be the guy to carry the torch on that offensive line from Marshall Yanda forward.
Yeah.
And so I think that he will get paid, and because of that, like you said, there will be some compromising that will have to happen. For example, I don't think Judon is long for the Ravens. I don't see it happening. I could see him getting a big payday down in Jacksonville or something like that. So I think that if I on it, he's getting paid, and he's going to be the highest paid in the league.
Well, the only reason I have paused, and I think maybe for a second they could let him explore the market and walk, is because of Mosley. Because Mosley was our first-round pick. He's a guy that I thought, a couple years ago, there's no way he's not a Raven at least for his second contract and maybe for his career. He seemed like a Raven.
Right.
But the Jets threw money at him that was outlandish in there, and it was outside their price range. It was to make him the highest paid at his position. So if I think the chances of him leaving increase if they don't have a deal done by this upcoming offseason, because I think if he's given a chance to explore the market, then he will be priced out of Baltimore by some team that values what he brings, that need, because of the off the field stuff combined with the fact that he was the All-Pro. It's just, what doesn't he bring to your team? He's rated as the best left tackle. One of the best left tackle season as far as pressures since they've recorded the stat in 2006. He only gave up 6 pressures last year. That's insane.
I know.
So especially a guy who played all 16. So to me, it doesn't. To me, he will, if he gets the chance to explore the market, he will be priced out of Baltimore. So if they don't make him the highest paid left tackle this upcoming offseason, I think there's a shot he could be gone. And it's only because of because you mentioned the comp picks, and yeah, the Ravens love comp picks, but you don't get as much value when your first round pick is leaving for a comp pick, because the most you're going to get back is a third, I think it is. So you're still losing value there. It's not like the Ravens typically, they like to take a 5th round pick, make him into a player, and then he leaves for a 3rd or a 4th. Boom, now you're upgrading your 5th to a 3rd or 4th. Now that's value. But I don't know if you're getting so much, just a 6th round pick, a 6 overall pick, you don't want to just be on your team for 5 years. That's a guy you want on your team for a decade if all things go well. So I think they want him to be here. They're hoping they can get a deal figured out. But if he hits the free market, I think he will be priced out.
Dang, that's crazy to think about us losing. But you're right. That's a perfect scenario, in referring to Mosley, because absolutely same scenario where, had performed well. He made 3 Pro Bowls in 4 years or something like that.
He was our definite leader on defense. Maybe not vocally because that was Suggs.
Right. Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I'm interested to see what'll happen to Stanley, and I'm interested to see whether or not we do get that deal done, because I agree with you. I think the percentages right now are like 80-20. He stays, 20 he goes. But those numbers, something similar to that, they switch really quickly if he does hit that open market. And the Las Vegas Raiders or something, that's his hometown. They come sniffing around. They offer him something crazy, and boom, he's gone. So, I'm really interested to see what'll happen. I have hope that he'll stay.
Yeah, he's a 6th overall pick. You don't want to – it's not a good look that you're not giving the second contract to your 6th overall pick. It's not a good look as a team. That means one or the other went wrong. Either you didn't scout him, or it didn't work out as far as development. So you want your 6th overall pick to be a multi-time Pro Bowler who's on your team for a decade or more, and that's what he would be if they were able to reach a long-term extension. Now there is that option of franchise tagging, but then you get a disgruntled player who's not showing up for training camp that could overall impact the team. Now he comes back week 1, his body isn't really ready, and now he tweaks a hamstring. Now he's gone for 8 weeks, and then what? So it's a slippery slope when you go down the franchise tag. And let me just say this before we go: every player we've ever tagged has gotten a long-term deal. So maybe I should say, if he got tagged, that would just mean he's definitely getting an extension. I guess we should assume that Judon gets one as well, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let us know, guys, what your thoughts are. You think he's staying? You think he's going? You think that we tag him? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and we will talk to you guys soon.
See you.